My name is Chandler Hyatt, and I decided to do my presentation on the country of Saudi Arabia. Saudi Arabia is the largest Arabic speaking country in the entire world, and seeing as I am an international business major with a minor in Arabic, I decided to do my presentation and focus this on this said country. Jack Welch once said, "A strategy is something like an innovative new product. Globalization, taking your product around the world. Be the low-cost producer, be the number one, and be the number two in business." Seeing as transport petroleum is the has new innovative technology to allow for the transportation of oil through its innovative technology of pipelines, it is the leading company in the United States to move the said crude oil from around the United States to other parts of the country. And thus, as Mark Smith, the CEO, is wanting to expand its operations abroad, and seeing as the country of Saudi Arabia as the largest crude oil country in the entire world, is the best fit. In my paper, I decided to talk about four culture dynamics of Saudi Arabia. The first being economic institutions, and talking about how oil affects its gross domestic product and its exportation, and how it is the largest oil producer in the world. The second is specifically talk about the religion of Saudi Arabia, specifically on Islam dominating the whole country's dynamics and the way they perform everyday life. The third is the business professionalism and how they act in everyday business societies. And the fourth is the class structure and the clothing, specifically on gender segregation. The first is economic institutions. Saudi Arabia is surrounded by the Red Sea and the Persian Gulf. These are two large bodies of water that allow for the exportation of oil. Saudi Arabia is the largest exportation in the world due to containing 25% of the world's oil preserves. It is estimated that 70 billion barrels of oil are stored in the Ghawar and the Safani oil fields, but there's only one pipeline company in the country of Saudi Arabia that allows for the movement of oil across the country to be exported, and this is a petrol line. However, due to the Vision 2030 that the Deputy Prime Minister just put into place, a $200 billion investment from the United States has allowed for this exportation to allow to be privatized. Right now, Petrol Line is the only state-sanctioned government pipeline company able to move this. However, this vision allows for them to reduce the private oil sectors and allow for other companies like Transport Petroleum to increase its globalization and move its product into the country of Saudi Arabia to allow for business to happen. They are more innovative in their transportation of oil than the Petrol Line company, and thus they could transport more than the Petrol Line can in a single day. The second argument dynamic that I talk about is religion. Religion runs the whole dynamic of the country. The country is based solely on the religion of Islam. There is, by law, every citizen of Saudi Arabia has to be a Muslim, and there is no freedom of religion. When it comes to religion, it is drastically different in the United States. We have a freedom of religion. We are guaranteed the right to express that religion. However, in Saudi Arabia, if you are caught practicing a different religion, you are is a state capital punishment, and you are up for execution. Islam was founded in 1610 AD when Muhammad started seeing revelations from the God Allah. He wrote those revelations in the book that is now called the Quran, which is the sacred document of Islam. In Saudi Arabia, if any other artifacts or literature that is found from other religions such as Christianity or the Bible, it is also punishable by death to have those on you. Also, the city of Mecca is where Muhammad was found to have said these revelations and received this from Abraham, which is called the Kaaba. The Kaaba is surrounded by the Masjid al-Haram, the largest masjid in the entire world. This is a sacred place where everybody that is Islamic has to come during some time of their life to give their holiness to this city. Muhammad was said to receive the revelations during the time what is now called Ramadan. Ramadan is a sacred month throughout the year that every Islamic person in the world has to fast. This includes no water, food, sexual activity, or any of that sort until they are said to have one meal at the end of the day, just as Muhammad did during the practice of Islam. At the end of the month, the fasting of Ramadan is celebrated by a big party, and with their culture with a huge feast and often gift exchanges. Um, Due to religion having a huge part in their everyday society, it runs every day of life. You Religion controls every aspect of life. During every day of business, they stop time 5 times a day to prayer, and if you don't pray during that said time, or are caught by the Mutawa religious police, they are punishable by death in this said country. The next argument or dynamic I talk about is business professionalism. During this time, since religion controls a lot of their everyday life, their meeting times are to be said on a give or take basis. Their punctuality is never very that good. They don't expect them to show up, or don't expect them to reschedule, or don't expect them to even call to reschedule. And during their everyday business or meetings, they don't actually have meetings about the business that needs to be negotiated. However, every business meeting is one for each candidate to get to know each other. Their business is set specifically on trusting people, even if you have the best technology, such as Transport Petroleum does. They are guaranteed to pick the lower ability company to perform said operations if they trust them more than they trust you. The last thing that I specifically talk about is class structure. Saudi Arabia is the most gender segregated country in the entire world. This has women-only areas such as shopping malls, restaurants, and workplace. Women aren't even guaranteed the right to walk in the same door. Thus, when they enter a shopping mall or restaurant or workplace, they have to enter through the back door because they cannot use the same door as males. During everyday life, women daily activities are excluded. They can't drive motor vehicles. They're not allowed to travel without men. They cannot obtain health care without the accompaniment of a man. And they are not allowed to have business negotiations with other men without men in the room of their class. Finally, the women are gender or specifically have to wear the abaya, which is a black garment that covers the hair and face. However, if women can wear stuff that does not cover their hair, but if the Madawa religious police catch them at some time, they are required to put the garment back on their head. The men wear the thobe and the shegma headdress, which is seen to the right. It is a white dress or a white headdress or white dress with a red cap. And finally, for men, when they do business, they have to wear suits, just as everyday life. And seen as this is a huge dynamic in everyday society, that is why Transport Petroleum and Mark Smith should first negotiate the culture dynamics of how Saudi Arabia conducts its business in everyday life before they move their company abroad.